Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Slidin into my DMs, part of the D4 network. This is the show on the network where we talk about D&D news, we talk about D&D rules, and basically just give tips for how to make sure that everybody at your table is having fun. They're not long tips, they're just regular sized tips.
Good old average tips.
I'm so cutting that.
Leave it. Might get like the adult
Yeah, I think it's maybe too borderline.
It's a little too borderline.
Cut it, but leave the part in where you're talking
yes,
about
exactly, I will. And then we'll get lots of comments of people saying, what were you talking about?
Become a member and you'll see that video.
I don't know.
Off to a great start.
Okay, so yeah, that threw me off. I threw myself off. How's it going, everybody? As always, we have some of my DMs with me. We have Dalinar the Blackthorn, and we've got Preston, and we've got Corey the Grand Poobah.
Yep, I'm prescribing everybody 2 free rolls with advantage. Send them to your DMs and enjoy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
this is what happens when you get me live, apparently.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have Corey live. Thanks for being here.
This is the first time I've been live on the DMs program.
You're usually dead.
Yeah, it's the first time you've been alive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Until now, it's pre-recorded.
Yeah, everybody, nobody really knew that I was actually, with you guys,
right,
around you guys.
Right.
So,
yeah. Yeah, because, well, I guess except for in the 20K, you were actually sharing a camera.
There's a mirror image.
Yeah.
20K, right over here.
And anybody who watches Tales of Veneria obviously will know that.
Yeah, except for you're still in your own camera, so you could very well be just from
I'm just making stuff
the
up
afterlife.
after the fact.
Yeah, or
He
something.
wrote himself an AI, and then this is the actor image.
Yeah, it actually was a lot of work to get Corey to share a camera. The amount of you wouldn't believe the budget that we had to blow through. In order
it's such a deal.
We had to get that wide lens.
Yeah.
No. It was that your salary demands were just ridiculous.
Yep. I am notoriously hard to work with.
Well, okay, so as usual, I've got a couple of things that I want to talk with you guys about today. We've got a quick ruling. We've got a longer conversation. As for the quick ruling, this question actually was made in the comments section from Crown Lexicon. Credit to Crown Lexicon. Thanks for bringing this up and really kind of made me go, you know what? I'm not exactly sure how that would work. I'm going to ask my DMs about it. And it was from the episode, the D&D optimized episode that I did a couple of weeks ago on the Skill Monkey, right up there. And it has to do with the interaction of a couple of different features from a rogue and from a bard. So the question is this: does the rogue's reliable talent interact, I suppose, in any way with the bard's jack of all trades? So more specifically, let me dig in a little bit. Right. So with reliable talent, right? It's an ability that all rogues get at 11th level. It says this: whenever you make an ability check that lets you add your proficiency bonus, you can treat a d20 of 9 or lower as a 10, right? So if you're proficient, if you can add your proficiency bonus to a check, then you roll a d20, and if it's a 9 or lower, it's a 10 plus, whatever modifiers you may have.
Yeah.
Making it great potentially for a skill monkey, which is why it came up in the comments, right? Mm-hmm. The bard's jack of all trades reads thus: starting at 2nd level, you can add half your proficiency bonus, rounded down, to any ability check you make that doesn't already include your proficiency bonus. So with the idea being that if you're not proficient in a skill, then now, you're at least half proficient, right? You can add half of your proficiency bonus. Mm-hmm. And so the question is, reliable talent very specifically does not say if you are proficient in a skill, whenever you make an ability check and you're proficient in it, you can treat a roll of a d20 of 9 or less as a 10. It says whenever you make an ability check that lets you add your proficiency bonus, and Jack of all trades is letting us add half of our proficiency bonus. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's where you're in the
green.
We're getting hung up here.
In the gray.
Now, let me maybe do a little like.
He's trying to persuade us.
Yes.
No, I'm just gonna excuse
He's
myself.
got reliable and jack of all
Roll with
trades.
persuasion with disadvantage because we're all onto you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna excuse myself here and mention, because a lot of people actually in the comments were like, "How come you didn't take reliable talent? How come you didn't take reliable talent? It's so good." And my response was generally, reliable talent is fantastic. My stated goal for the build was to get proficiency in every single skill as quickly as possible. And doing that required a lot of multi-classing, among other things. And then having to get reliable talent, okay, that's nice, but like that doesn't come on until really late. A lot of campaigns are over by level 11 anyway, right? So anyway, this would not even be possible until character level 13, right? You need 2 bard and 11 rogue.
Okay.
So anyway.
Wait, I haven't seen your skill monkey video yet, so forgive me. But did you actually do a background for this build?
I did.
That's amazing.
I chose if I recall, I chose the faction agent.
Okay.
I was an agent for the Harpers.
Okay.
And it was the first time, and might be the last for all I know, that I actually choose a background. Just because it was like, you get 2 skill proficiencies, and we had to fill gaps. So
That's good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Off topic.
All right, so what do you guys think? Who wants to go first?
No.
Rules is written. No.
Rules is written and probably at my table
And
now.
probably at your table, no.
Yep, half proficiency does not equal proficiency.
Okay.
It's very specific, like the half in there adds on and kind of ruins the saying for reliable. Plus, you're basically trying to argue to be able to take 10 on any skill roll.
On any roll.
Yeah, on any roll at all.
Yeah.
And that's a little too much. I mean, even if your whole goal is to just be the skill monkey, it's like you still trivialize most skill challenges at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're always a 10 or better, and you're adding half of your proficiency bonus, which at level 13 would be a 5.
Yeah.
So rounded down
2.
So that's 2. So you're automatically at a 12.
Yeah.
Obviously, you may have a negative modifier, but if you're a jack of all trades, if you're a true skill monkey, you probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
I would think. So yeah, I mean, obviously, like
it's a nice little safety net. It would be like having the reliable talent is like, oh, I could just roll anything that I'm proficient in, and I'm guaranteed to roll a 10. But I don't know. I think that being able to roll absolutely any skill and not being able to roll below a 10, that kind of takes away a little bit of the fun for the person who is the skill monkey, right? Because if it's I want to be proficient in everything so that I can show off like how good I am at all of these skills.
I had to work hard to like multi-class and take the right feats and take the
honestly,
right
if you have a rogue in your party and they just come along with a reliable talent and
it's like
they're
I'm
doing
level
better,
11, 2 levels of bard,
you're just like,
can do everything.
Come on, man.
It was too easy.
Yeah. So I would say no, unfortunately, at my table, and I don't think rules is written either.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think the qualifier there is that's only half of your proficiency, not the full proficiency, and I think that's the distinction. But maybe in a one shot, that might be really fun to just be like, all right,
If
you're a
you were
level
playing
13,
a level 13 one shot.
rogue bard.
My name is Gary Stew, and I'm great at everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in that case, if it's just one shot, I'd allow it.
Preston, you want to be a good cop? Or
I'm going to be the dissenting voice.
All right.
At my table, no. But I mean, it says proficiency, and half proficiency is still proficiency.
A portion
so I could
of
see,
your proficiency bonus.
But I think again, like rules is written, I think that the spirit of it kind of breaks the game a little bit, and I'd say for that reason, no. But for semantics, like getting into that kind of battle, I could see it being argued. Yes.
You think this might fly at like an Adventure League table, maybe?
I doubt
probably
it.
not.
I don't think so.
I doubt it. I'm pretty sure you come up to any DM and you say you give them this specific build that you've made, and they're going to look at it and they're going to go, yeah, reliable and Jack of all trades don't work together.
Okay.
Simply because, again, when you're doing an Adventure League game, you're running with people who are there to play like for the thrill of the Adventure League. And if you're trivializing any portion of that, because the DMs are supposed to be like by the book and everything, and if you're trivializing any portion of that, it just makes it less fun for the rest of the table.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'd be interested to hear, like if there's different instances of it being used in the community that way.
Yes, please let us know if you have seen this at your table, whether Adventure League or not.
Did it break your game? I feel like it broke your game.
I mean, I would allow it like Dallin said, in one shot. I think it'd be kind of fun to play with it.
I mean, combat, but part of the thing with like crafting a story is the DM can say this check is hard, and so this is a 20. But if you've got reliable talent in this, like now it's not very hard.
Now there's still more than a 50% chance.
And maybe the DM
succeeding.
really doesn't want you to go there, but they don't want to railroad you, so they're like, we'll leave it to the dice, but it's going to be extremely hard. And if you get it, great, I'll figure it out. But with this, now it's like, do I make it a level 30 check and be like a jerk?
Well, it depends on what they're doing. Like, I mean, if they just want to be like, hey, I'm an acrobat and I want to generally not fall on my face, like, cool. Like, you can do your acrobatics check, you can do strength check, whatever. Like, that's fine. But if it is one of those instances where if they're trying to do something very difficult, as a DM, it would be difficult to balance for all the other players, because then it would feel like you're targeting that player and saying, your check's a 30, but your check's a 15.
Yeah. Super off topic, but I just noticed you're both dice apparel.
Yes.
That was very nice.
You guys coordinated
we
really well.
had a good
We got crit happens,
coordination.
and we got the yin yang. Corey was a fan of my double hexblade warlock build, apparently.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. If you got any more cards.
Oh, that's right.
Dallin has the Mandalorian, and Colby has a Mandalorian tattoo from chest to stern.
I wear all my good
We all know it's a translation.
I wear all my good nerdy T-shirts for the D&D optimized videos, and then I just have to go with like plain colors for like because I only have so many T-shirts.
It's a soothing blue.
That's true.
Makes me feel calm.
Hey, at least we're all different colors. Usually we all have the same colors.
One more thing that I do want to point out about ruling this in favor or not in favor of your player is the situation of one player wanting to do everything, right?
Yes.
Because oftentimes when you're running a game, you have certain people that are good at certain things in your party, right? Like, for example, in our party, you're really good at your acrobatics. Saradon has intimidation down. Ezra has like a little bit of arcane still, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it's pretty good at stealth.
A little bit of stealth and that kind of thing. And like having it go like, oh, I want to stealth up to this guy and sneak attack him, and then having the skill monkey go, oh, me too, I want to be in there and I want to do that too. Just in every situation, kind of makes it like, okay, well, back off, let other people have their moment to shine, you know. And so discouraging that in a way that you can do it within the rules makes it a little easier to be able to be that kind of bad guy.
Yeah. No, I get that. I think, the argument for, and we're getting way off topic here, but that's fine. Yeah. You can fast forward, check the timestamps. The argument for, I think, like playing this type of character that I guess I made, and I think a lot of people who were requesting it would make, was like, I want a character that's like really good at everything, but everything here doesn't necessarily include combat. Yeah. Right? Right. Sure. And so when I created the character, I was like, okay, I'm going to try to like do that and make them as good as I can, like for combat too, so that you can also contribute there.
Where did they fall on your combat graph?
Oh, I didn't graph them.
You didn't even
They were off the graph. They were so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, by level 13 or so, they were starting to compete, but they were still like at the bottom.
Right. Sounds like a well-rounded character to me.
I know, which I'm still like, I shower like 3 times a day. No, I'm just kidding. I actually had a lot of fun building it, and I think too the idea, part of the reason why I wanted to do it is because I do also get a lot of requests from people that will say things like, make a character they're optimized, but they're not hogging the spotlight all the time necessarily. Sure. And I think that's what they're thinking, and frankly what I'm thinking is hogging the spotlight means like being way better than everybody else in combat. Yeah. And of course, depending on your table, like that might not necessarily be hogging the spotlight. Like hogging the spotlight can also happen like outside of combat, obviously, right? Yeah. But the idea was sort of like find ways to sort of buff your allies, like make them shine, make them look good, so that you're like really, really, really good at like
supporting actor award.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Gotcha. Like making everybody else kind of look good. But then the reality is I can't help but think that for this character, especially the way that I built them, like once combat's over, you're doing everything. You're definitely the face of the party. Like, you're stealth. Right. You're good at stealth. Well, you're good at everything. I mean, you're good at nature checks, arcana checks, religion checks.
That would be the discussion that would have to be had, I think, when you create that kind of a character, is that if I were to allow if I was to allow both in that instance, going back to the original question, it would have to be dependent on the player and the table's temperament. Like if everybody else is, murder hobos and they're like, I don't care, like he can be the face, he can do the talk, all that.
Yeah.
Cool,
I'm
fine.
Dwarven, and these are my 3 barbarian friends. Like, they're here for if things get really bad, but I'm the good cop.
And I feel like we've got a kind of a nice mix of that actually at our table, because there are different things that we each sort of
for sure
like doing more, maybe like. Yeah. Obviously, combat is like my favorite thing typically, and so I want to be like really good in combat. And not that I don't also like to role play and like have moments sort of outside of combat too, but that's maybe especially where Preston shines, and Tori, frankly, and Corey when you're not DMing.
I do end up trying to be more face than I should be with most characters.
I love when you try and be a face and then you look at your charisma score and you're like, shoot. Should let somebody else.
Can I use intelligence for this persuasion
or
check?
when you have a plus 10 to your charisma and you roll 1s on like everything.
I'm notorious for playing characters with low charisma, but they love talking. That's my thing.
They just don't know that they're not charismatic.
And then I was just gonna say, and Dallin's like usually a pretty good mix of like he's the jack of all trades.
Yeah,
he's like pretty good at combat,
which is one of my favorite abilities from bards. By the way, I think that's a really cool.
That's fun. Cool. Okay, that was a bit of a tangent. Thanks for humoring us, those that stuck it out.
I mean, that's what the show's about.
Yeah, it's really just us, like me throwing a softball and you guys hitting it every which way.
I was never good at softball.
Speak for yourself, mate.
All right, let's jump in to the longer conversation. I'm gonna think of something
the average
better.
tip.
The average. And we're back.
Thanks, sponsors.
I'm stoked. I'm stoked, guys. I'm so stoked.
Are you stoked?
Yes.
All right.
I know what we're talking about today, and I'm stoked.
So today, I actually wanted to talk about like the new book,
The Wild Witch Beyond the Wild Behind the Witchlight? Yep. Something like that.
Witch Beyond the Wildlight.
Oh, it's not your illusion special?
Beyond the Witchlight.
I'm not prepared.
We're going to get to that one of these episodes.
Eventually.
As soon as we all start playing characters that use illusions.
All right, next character.
Anyway. Next one shot or something at least.
At the end of this, we find out it is all one big illusion, and it's like Ender's Game.
So. Yeah.
So what we're actually talking about is not Witch Beyond the Wildlight or Wild Beyond the Witchlight. It is the future of D&D, I guess, right? So for those who don't know, and if you're watching this show, you probably do, but anyway, there was a big old D&D convention, essentially, right, last week, as of this recording, with all of the big names, all of the Jeremy Crawfords, all of the
Chris Perkins.
Thank you. Chris Perkins is...
They have multiples. They're clones.
Yes.
That's how they get all
and
Chris Perkins, the original Jeremy Crawford.
And they had lots of panels and lots of cool stuff, but right at the end of that convention, especially, there was this panel, and they talked about the future of D&D, and they spent a good 40 minutes almost kind of talking about what's on the near and midterm horizon for Dungeons & Dragons. And we wanted to kind of pick out some of the juiciest bits, I think, and discuss them and kind of get your guys' thoughts, potentially speculation, what you're excited about, what you're not sure about. Right, so maybe let me just go high level on some of them, right? That they were making changes to, like, for quality of life purposes, to how like stat blocks of monsters are displayed, including like some balancing stuff, which we can dig into a little bit. They had some new books announced. They talked about how kind of they were going to do a lot more of the like Candlekeep Mysteries type stuff going forward with like compendium collections, like adventure collections, things like that. The biggest bomb, of course, I think, was they're not calling it this, but I mean, I think they essentially announced like 5.5, right? D&D 5.5. They said like 2024, not new edition, but like
iteration,
new rule books that are compatible with
5e advanced
existing rule books, right? And so we sort of have a precedent for this with 3 and then 3.5.
Yeah. So I guess that's the great question. Are they gonna call it 5th edition advanced, or 5.5
or 5.5
or something else.
I don't know.
D&D
So
beyond
Just D&D.
They hinted at like putting an emphasis on like new formats, like digital formats, things like that. So I want to kind of dig in a little bit to all of these things, but maybe the way to approach it is to say, why don't we go around and everybody kind of highlight one thing that really stuck out to them that was maybe kind of their favorite or one of their favorite things that was talked about. And Dallin, why don't we start with you?
The thing that I'm most excited for is they're revamping like the stat blocks for monsters for DMs, which is awesome. And they're making them punch their weight for the challenge rating, finally, because if you've DM'd past like level 10, you know balancing combat is so hard. So now should be a lot easier. And they kind of like have like one main attack now, and then there's like, there's still spells, but like don't worry about that. Here's the main thing, and like this is where the damage comes from.
Well, and that was always my trouble. And if you've watched the Tales of Veneria, you've seen me say it a few times, being like, how many spells can a creature cast in one turn? Because there's so many instances where I'm like, I want this mage who's a magic user to be able to cast multiple things and teleport around the battlefield and sling spells, but they can only just like teleport once and then maybe cast a cantrip.
And then wait.
And so now it's like, here's your attack, here's your
attack spell, and then you've got some utility stuff down here, and maybe one or two. And you don't have to track spell levels anymore.
Right.
Which
spell slots.
As a DM, that's just so nice. And like most of the time, you're not probably even going to see a combat where you use all the spell slots anyways. I mean, maybe, but not likely. Like
all of that quality of life stuff was really interesting to me. But they did, like I say, they talked a lot. In fact, this, I might even say that this was more interesting to me than the 5.5 news, just because I don't know what that's going to look like necessarily. You know what I mean? But this feels a lot more concrete. So this was all going to be part of the Monsters of the Multiverse book.
Morton Kanan's Monsters of the Multiverse,
which brings all of the like Monster Manual, Volo's Guide to Monsters, all that stuff.
So actually, like just to clarify, it collects all of the setting agnostic, which is a great word.
So not Eberron, not
everything that's outside that was kind of like new monsters in other books, other adventure books and everything, and they are throwing some other ones like Volo's that need a heavy update, like the Bard or the other War Mages and everything. So with new art.
They're putting that all into one big compendium, new art, and then a lot of the stuff was not only like quality of life stuff, like you mentioned, but so he said they're going to put playable races in there that are again setting agnostic, right? 30 of them.
30 playable races.
Right. How many of those do you think are already existing?
I think most
all,
of them are.
Most, if not all. Yeah.
Okay.
But then he said we're going to, and this is a little nebulous, and maybe we can speculate on it. Like he said that there's going to be improved clarity on both the playable races and the monsters. They have added new abilities in some cases. They have rebalanced things, kind of like you were hinting at a little bit. New art. And so, like, I love the quality of life stuff, but for me especially, of course, I'm like most interested in, okay, well, what did you mean by rebalancing? And are we talking races too? Or were you just talking about monsters there? Right?
How many more optimized videos do I get to make now?
Well, I mean, it could potentially, it's new content. It's more content, right? It's job security. Like, he even said like the monsters are going to be even scarier, right? And they're going to hit harder and be better balanced for their challenge rating and stuff like that.
Which is good.
That stuff is all super fascinating to me.
Yeah.
How necessary do you think that is? We've done episodes on balancing combat and the challenge of balancing combat. That's probably my last card. And especially at higher level, right? It can be difficult.
Absolutely. I think Dallin nailed it on the head, actually. Just saying, like, being able to have monsters retooled and punch their weight. And Jeremy Crawford even said that, like, changing the spells on a monster, suddenly, like, it would affect the CR of that monster, which isn't something that I even considered, is that they balance the spell. I mean, obviously, I should have considered that. But they balance the spells with that. It makes a lot of sense that, like, I changed some spells around, and suddenly this mage is not as good as he was.
Yeah, exactly. It's because some DMs are really bad at optimizing.
Yeah, some DMs are like, I don't know, I'm going to cast this, and it's like, wait, what? Why?
I'm going to create a spellcaster, and I'm going to give them, like, find traps, and...
Well, so I think, one of the things that I've done as a DM lately is I've started homebrewing a bit more, because it allows me to create monsters with grandiose abilities that are outside of the spell slots, kind of thing, right? Like if I wanted to create a cool spellcaster, I can give them an ability that does an AoE attack that's usable with their multi-attack, rather than just being like, and they have flame strike. But that's all they can do. But then I can cast this, and I can cast a spell on the same turn, a utility spell.
Especially when I feel like at least all the games that I've run, action economy is always in favor of the players.
Sure.
And when you have a spellcaster and it's the only one on the field, every other ranged creature on that field is going to target that caster, it feels like. And so then that caster's going to be like, I'm going to cast Fireball once. Okay, got it off. Boom, he's dead. Okay, now everybody else fight. Like,
if they even get a turn in combat.
Get a turn in combat.
Do you think, and maybe this was more clear than I realize, but do you think that they also are intending to rebalance the races at all? I mean, he kind of talked about that they were going to include the playable races, and then he kind of went on to, Jeremy Crawford went on to say that they were going to have improved clarity.
Yeah.
I think that's probably...
Again, he might have just been referring to, like, the NPCs. But...
Right. I think they're setting up, they're doing slow little changes so that when they do 5.5 or whatever it is, that it will be rebalanced then.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too, is that this new iteration of D&D feels like that would be the appropriate time to do a full rebalance on lineages versus all that stuff.
Right, they're introducing all the concepts now, custom lineage, the
so then it's more
undead,
softball,
reborn, whatever those ones were.
Yeah, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to like shell shock everyone, because right now they have a really good thing going for them. People are loving it. There's a lot of online communities that are being built around this edition. And if they didn't slowly kind of incrementally lead people by the nose a little bit, I have a feeling that it would, people would be turned off by it, and you'd have another edition where people just won't buy it.
Is this the longest an edition is run for? Is 5th?
Oh yeah.
And they're still 2 years out, supposedly,
so
which actually surprised me.
I
was thinking, well, I mean, it's 2021, I guess. I was anticipating like a 5.5 or 6th edition, even like in the next year and a half. So I was off.
I'm actually going to be the dissenting opinion. I don't think they're going to redo any of the races. Really? I don't think they're going to rebalance or anything like that, because then you have people that are going like, oh, well, I'm playing the Loxodon before the redo and after the redo. I don't think you're going to see any of that. I think as far as rebalancing goes, they're going to stick with making more customization available, like their custom lineage that they have now, or the design your own lineage where you get to pick your bonuses and your feats and stuff, and they might expand on that to be like, you can pick a racial trait from any race as part of your race
and
thing.
Expand that to be a little bit more
a little bit more robust or a little bit more open-ended, but I don't think you're going to see, like, if somebody wants to play a Loxodon, I don't think you're going to see like they change anything major with that.
I'm actually going to go 180 degrees the other way. I hope and wouldn't be surprised if they did at least some tweaks with the races to address things like, okay, custom lineage has tended to throw a little bit of a wrench in the works of a lot of things. There are races. So, for example, I went over this in my episode, my optimized episode just this week. I don't think I have any cards left, but just in case. It was the Storm Sorcerer Tempest Cleric, where I talked about, any recent races that get a spell, for example, it's always the same. We're told you can cast this once per day, once per long rest, without spending a spell slot, or if you have spell slots, then you can use a spell slot to use this. So the Fairy, for example, that just came out last week, right, has this Fairy Fire. They can cast Fairy Fire once per day without spending a spell slot, and then if you have spell slots, you can use your spell slots. Counter that to the Drow, or the Drow Half-Elf, which are older. they too can cast Fairy Fire once per long rest. The end. Right? And like, I have to believe that obviously, like, everything in the last year-ish has kind of followed this path, and everything that's older than that kind of was doing this thing. And I hope, anyway, that they're going to be like, nope, everybody's kind of operating in the similar vein.
Even if it's a light touch where they don't necessarily overhaul everything, but at least
because it'll still be compatible with the game, but
just
even
tweaks.
if you played the old one, it's like it still works with the game. You're basically just hurting yourself by not taking one of the new.
I'll agree that they can basically update that to be like to conform to the new normal as far as like spells go. I think that's not out of the realm of possibility, and I think most DMs do that automatically for their players at this point.
And also proficiency bonus. There's a lot of stuff now that's like you can do this proficiency
bonus times per day.
Before it was like you could do it based on whatever else.
And obviously, like, some people would say, well, but they balanced it that way, and so the new stuff is balanced this way. But it's like my argument in the episode anyway was like, okay, fairies can fly.
Right.
Just straight up, free 3rd level spell concentration all the time whenever they want it. Right? And you're going to tell me that because a half elf gets a +1 to one other tertiary ability score that, like, that's balanced? No, it's not. Whatever. And half elves get other things. Whatever. I don't want to get into it. I'm just saying, like, I think another reason why this would be a great idea is because a lot of people, some of my viewers included, complain a lot about power creep. Right? And say, well, like, as the new stuff comes out, everything that's new is always more powerful than old, and then they're cynical about it, and it's like, well, it's because they just want us to, like, buy more books and stuff like that, which there's probably a valid argument there, right?
That's about 70% of the reason, I'm sure. Like, I'm sorry.
It's a marketing tactic.
They're a company.
Wizards
of the Coast of the company, they want you to buy their books.
But I can't help but think that this could be a great opportunity for them to say, okay, we're gonna like bring everything in alignment. We're gonna kind of bring the old stuff up to the same level
and put it in a book that you have to buy.
So not only are we getting rid of power creep, but we're putting it in a new product that now there's a good reason for you to buy.
Exactly. Like, the model isn't hard.
So, but I would like to see it regardless, and I'll probably buy the book. Right?
I gotta wait till January because the Mordenkainen's Multiverse of Monsters comes out in December with a bundle that combines an updated version of Tasha's and Xanthar's with this book. And then in January, they're coming out with the book individually.
Just separate. Yes, exactly.
With that update, I do feel bad for the D&D Beyond team having to reconcile all of the...
I know, you guys haven't fixed Bag of Holdings yet. Get on that.
Well, there's only 2 of us.
Now they're not going to spend time on that. They're going to spend on...
Earl and Jeb are like, what do we do?
Hey, there's a nice segue, speaking of things like D&D Beyond. I mean, they talked a lot about kind of moving into additional formats, sort of hinting at like more
D&D
digital
Happy Meals.
stuff.
Here we go.
So what do you guys think they were getting at?
A D20 and a mini.
Get a tiny store. You unfold the kids' meal, and it's got like a little map on it, and you have to navigate around it. It's not hard.
And each Happy Meal comes each week. They do a different like mini.
Oh, I got Caddy Brie again.
And then there's a QR code that you scan, and it brings it to your digital.
What do you think they were getting at? I mean, are they gonna do their own Roll20? Are they gonna?
I think so.
I hope.
I think they're gonna do a VTT. For sure.
I hope. I mean, there's nothing against Roll20, but there are some fundamental issues with just the format that I think no one's quite solved because they don't have the budget behind them to do it.
I imagine it'll be integrated with D&D Beyond, where you have all your stuff there, and it's like, and here's this extension, right? So all the books you own and everything just already poured over, all your character sheets, all that kind of stuff.
Maps.
I'm sure like all that will just...
Map book
there would have to, and that would definitely, I'd see them have to make a play there because they are distinct companies.
Right, but they've been in tandem, like, so close, like, along the whole 5e journey, that I feel like if it were to go with the company, it'd be them.
At what point does Wizards of the Coast just acquire D&D Beyond?
Probably soon. Maybe that's part of the...
it could be in the talks. Sure. One thing I'd like to see is not to have them go back into the miniature market, but to go into the STL market. So that people, because 3D printing is huge. Obviously, you've seen 3D printing boom with my brother and I. But being able to be like, here's the adventure, and here's all the digital files for all of the cool like monsters that you're going to fight that are new. Yeah. And they've got artists that render them, and then you go in and you print them out on your own.
We were just talking about this at launch, actually, that they should just take the entire monster manual and create an STL for every single monster, and then say, for, I don't know, $100, here you go, and here's every single thing that you can download.
Right. You can get it for free. Shout out to Miguel Zavala. He he did the entire monster manual. He's been going through each of the adventures and doing all of the unique monsters, and he's been going back and re-rendering his older models from the monster manual with new ones, all for free, all approved by D&D as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That is really cool.
Yeah. So go shout out to Miguel Zavala. You're great. We love you. We've used your STLs. You've seen a lot of his STLs.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I can see him breaking into those different different stuff. Like, and I feel like that for at least at the beginning half of 5e, it was very you buy the physical copies, you buy that, and then you had D&D Beyond that came out, and then there's this kind of resurgence where there's so many more avenues that weren't open before were now open, and I could see, Wizards of the Coast seeing them as an appetizing thing to acquire or at least partner with.
For sure.
Yep.
Other thing I think they could do is a lot of people just buy the physical book and then they got to go buy the digital version, so maybe like a QR code, an extra $5 or $10
like
or something.
Share or something between you two. Yeah.
Right, so then you don't have to buy it twice.
Then you don't bastardize D&D Beyond if you buy it from Wizards.
Right.
I'd be shocked if they didn't acquire D&D Beyond at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, I don't know. I think it would make sense. But now we're speculating about businesses, and that's not very exciting.
That's not what people are here for. I have. Can I talk?
Yes, please. What was your favorite thing, Corey?
So, the new settings, right? We've got 2 familiar settings coming in 2022.
Right. Can we speculate on those?
Yes, absolutely.
Dragonlance
has got to be one.
Dragonlance and Greyhawk.
It better be. And then, I think Greyhawk.
I think there also might be a chance that one of those gets edged out for Spelljammers, which would be
really cool.
Which was the kind of like multiverse hopping,
and they are going
sci-fi-ish.
multiverse, right?
Yep. So it could be Spelljammers, but I think if you want to pull the old fans back in, you bring back Greyhawk and you bring back Dragonlance.
Yeah,
that's just what it is.
I mean, obviously they're even starting with fizz bands and stuff like that.
The seeds are
planted. But I would love, to play like a Kender is going to be a playable race for those who are familiar with. They're sort of like a cross between an elf and a gnome, maybe I would say. They're like these little mischievous, pointy-eared
gelflings.
Some of like the official like NPCs, monsters, characters would be really cool. And having like actual dragon lances and like mounted combat like on dragons.
I think they revealed art for Large Luigi coming to D&D soon, which for those of you who don't know Large Luigi, which judging by the faces, maybe
it's Mario's big brother.
He is a beholder, and he's a tavern owner in the multiverse at large. I can't remember exactly if like there's a specific setting or if he just kind of floats in the astral sea and with like this inn and everything. But I just love the name. I think Large Luigi's a great name for.
I went straight to Mario, so that was not one that I was aware of. So.
But two like old settings. Chris Perkins said that they are currently exploring, which I think is a great way to say it, 2 new settings, brand new, which I always love anything new. Chris Perkins does a great job too if he's heading the team. I think he did a great job on 4th edition, and I think he did a great job like creating worlds and world building, so I think he's perfect for that.
I didn't realize until he said it that they hadn't done that since Eberron, which was 2004.
Which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, there's so much Forgotten Realms that it's like, okay, let's...
We haven't forgot the realms. We got to remember. Let's go somewhere else.
I like the Forgotten Realms.
It's pretty cool, but we're always in the Sword Coast, too. It's like, what about the rest of them?
Yeah, like, let's
like, all the adventures are on Baldur's Gate or in Waterdeep. It's like, what about all the other stuff?
Yeah, I want to do all the stuff that's on the other side of the map.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Icewind Dale... kind of
that's still spine of the world,
it's still right on the coast.
Still, like you start the adventure off in Luskin, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
I guess for me, and again another tangent, but like, I like the nostalgia and the comfort. Like I like settling into like
something familiar,
something cozy, and and feeling like you're part of a sort of an existing lore that you're familiar with and a coherent world, and maybe even very easily being able to tie to your other adventures that you've had, maybe absolutely. Things like that.
I think that's why Dragonlance will do well, because all those people who've read the books and they're so cozy with it.
Yep.
That they'll just be like, perfect.
I know that the day that the Dragonlance setting comes out, Colby's going to rush over and start smacking me with a copy. Let's play here.
I'd be down.
But they also announced that next month they are going to be announcing a setting that Chris Perkins says is going to be spooky and horrifying.
Yeah. Perfect in time for Halloween.
And there's going to be a lot of speculation, but I'll tell you right now, it's Innistrad. Which sounds like Strahd, but isn't, because it's a Magic the Gathering set that's based around vampires and werewolves. And then they also did announce that Boo will be making his return in 2022 in some capacity.
Now, okay, so they threw out this little image of Boo that had been sketched, and for those not familiar, Boo was a
giant space hamster.
Well, a miniature giant space hamster. From the Baldur's Gate video games. And like he's going to be on a cover of a book.
That looked like that was going to be an alternate cover. Let's be honest. At least it will maybe an alternate.
But I guess what I'm wondering is, like, because at first I was like, oh, they're doing it. Well, they're already doing Baldur's Gate 3, so it can't be a video game, right? Yeah. It's going to be on a book cover. Like, Baldur's Gate already exists in. I mean, Baldur's Gate is a city in the Sword Coast, like we've just been talking about. So, like, what book is this going to be?
I wonder if it's like, you know how they're doing the Candlekeep mysteries? I wonder if they're going to do something specific to Baldur's Gate.
With like the Baldur's Gate 30 characters and things like that.
Right, you can run into Drizzt,
they have Waterdeep heist stuff, so I mean, it would make sense to do like a collection of adventures set in Baldur's Gate with maybe some of the existing characters from the existing lore and the games and stuff like that.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool. I have to make a correction. They said that they were announcing 2 familiar settings next year and a peek at a third. So we may be getting Spelljammer after all, just later down the line.
Right. So like Greyhawk, Dragonlance, and then maybe Spelljammer.
And they're you know what? They may be going Dark Sun. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the Dark Sun setting. It's a very deserty planet where
Dune.
Yeah, it's sort of like Dune. There's not a lot of water around, and there's all these nomadic caravans that go around, and I think there's like specific like a magic drought, if I'm not mistaken. Can't remember exactly. All I remember is that there's these mantis people called the Thrykeen in there, and they're really cool because they make their weapons out of amber, which is what they spit. So they make their weapons out of their own spit.
So you can, what I'm hearing is that could be Scyther.
Yeah, there you go.
Preston, what was your favorite?
Mine, honestly, is the thing that I am probably most excited about, other than the changes to the monsters, because I think as a DM that is going to make my life so much easier. New art, I'm always a big fan of, especially with some of the new stuff that they've been coming out with. I think has been really good. If you haven't seen the what is it called, the old original books for the Rise of Tiamat and the Hoard of the Dragon Queen, they had some pretty good art in there. But then when they did that compendium, what's it called when they put them both together?
It's just called
Rise of the Dragon. I think it's Tyranny of Dragons, and one like in that I got the special edition cover book or whatever. That had such like juicy artwork in it, and I loved it. And for me, I'm a very visual person, and I love to be able to turn around and show players and be like, "This is what you're looking at." Like instead of me just describing, "Hey, it has the," like taking a 5-minute description of what it is, and they're like, "Okay, so it's Squidward." No, it's not Squidward. It's scarier. Like scarier. You're
Squidward, but more Cthulhu-esque.
Yeah, I think having a discussion on visual aids in D&D is a great topic for time too. Because I disagree with you. I think that the majesty of being able to use your imagination.
Don't reveal your monster.
Like being exactly, like having it be in the player's head of what their greatest fear is or what their most horrifying version.
So everything's a boggart.
Yeah, everything's a boggart. Yep, exactly.
That's the title of this episode. Yep, everything's a boggart.
It's the horror movie trope. All the good ones do it, at least.
Right.
I don't know.
Then does the D&D miniature on the table then disillusion that?
True. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And that's a complete that's
counterpoint
to me right there.
Yeah.
Well, I love my miniatures.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it's like it's that one where it's like, especially if it's something where you're trying to explain something alien to somebody, and they have no frame of reference. Hey, have you played this? No. Yeah. Have you played this?
If you had never played D&D and had never seen a beholder. Yeah, and somebody was trying to describe I'm going to cut that. So you and somebody tried to describe what a beholder looked like to you, right? You'd be like, okay, so it's like a bowling ball with like little things coming out and like eyes, like that's not scary. And then you see the picture, you're like, oh my gosh, that's terrifying, right?
Like it has fangs.
I honestly never thought that they looked that scary, but it's because I have a different picture in my head.
The right picture of the beholder. Then.
You're on the wrong side of D&D internet.
Given the description that you would have given it, like it's not
that scary. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I feel like the art that they've done in like the second half of 5th edition has been better than the original.
Yeah,
like, the other part was like still like kind of old world fantasy, and the new stuff was like bright and vibrant and in motion and the spell effects. Like it just looks really cool.
And nothing against like the original artist or anything.
No,
like that was a stepping stone to get where we are.
Exactly.
But it was there were some of those things where it's like, hey, here's this nebulous item. You like iterate on this, and then everyone else has had the chance to like build what they think it is in their head, and then kind of go with it. So yeah.
All right. Well, we made it through my notes. Am I missing anything?
No, that's as far as I know. Okay. That's everything. Like I said, I'm super excited to see what new settings come of it.
Yeah.
I'm excited to have more solo adventures in collected compendiums.
Right.
If anybody hasn't, like, if you're a DM and you're worrying about like a one shot or something to put into your campaign because you haven't thought of an idea, go get the Candlekeep Mysteries, because they have they literally have an adventure for every level, and you can pretty much adapt any of them into your story.
You know what the biggest problem of all of this is? We just don't have enough time to play as much D&D as we want.
That's true.
We need 3 active campaigns at the same time to do all different adventures.
No more of this once a week crap.
Yeah, we're gonna play every day.
Every other day at least. Thank you guys for as always contributing to the conversation. I always love this is like one of the best parts of my week. So thanks for being here and for chatting about it with us. Thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed all of our takes on the news and speculation and things. But yeah, love you guys. Think you're fantastic, and hope you have a great day. And we will talk to you soon. Goodbye. Okay, so there were tons of announcements. I just bumped the table. Okay, so there were tons of announcements made, right?
Oh my.
Mute. Try that one more time. 5.5-inch tip.
Carry on, Cakes.
This episode.
We need Tori. We need Tori here.
Yeah, because we don't say this stuff around
Keep things in check.
Yeah.
It's funny.
All right, so there were tons of announcements made.
Yes.
Right?
No! That was to do 4 times.
I can edit this. This is fine. This is fine.